The second conjunction of Jupiter and Venus during these Jupiter signs of 3 and 2 BC formed a bracket around the three signs marking the birth of Christ. This identifies the new morning star who would supersede the fallen enemy in Isaiah 14:12. This establishes the truth seen before in the meteor shower of Revelation 12:3 and 4, where the new morning star arises as the archaic morning star is cast down.
One of the most spectacular and close conjunctions of planets ever to be witnessed by mankind occurred on June 17th, 2 BC. With the naked eye, it would have been a majestic and awe-inspiring sight. To observers on the Earth, it would have appeared as a single magnificent star in the western sky, just after sundown. Within the last 25 years, no astronomical event of the past has caused more discussion between astronomers and historians than this conjunction of Jupiter and Venus on June 17th, 2 BC. In 1980, a symposium was held at Griffith Observatory in Los Angeles, attended by various scholars and observatory staff. The meeting was convened to discuss the historical significance of several astronomical events that occurred in 3 and 2 BC. It was led by noted chronologist and biblical historian Professor Jack Finnegan of Berkeley, California. At the meeting, it was determined that the unique conjunction of Jupiter and Venus and other astronomical events covering an 18-month period from May of 3 BC to December of 2 BC were of such historical and astronomical significance that there was a need for modern scholars to reappraise the historical accounts associated with these celestial events. Since these celestial occasions were so remarkable, many planetarians, 600 plus in the U.S. alone, have considered it worthwhile to show this new research to the general public because of the widespread interest in this period of Jesus' nativity and its impact on the history of Western civilization.
The massing of planets in Leo was the sign that actually sent the Magi on their historic journey in search of the new king. This was a crowning sign following the triple conjunction of Jupiter-Regulus, bracketed by the two Jupiter-Venus unions, establishing the identity of the risen morning star. As the regal members of the royal cabinet, the Magi had many resources at their disposal to organize a well-armed and provisioned caravan to make the 800-mile journey through enemy territory to Israel and Jerusalem. They weren't just three lonely wise guys trekking through the desert on their own. They traveled with pomp and circumstance, which is one reason why Herod and all of Jerusalem were troubled at their arrival in search of a new king. As they followed Jupiter in its westerly course, they must have felt great anticipation in their hearts to fulfill the 600-year-old teachings of Daniel, upheld faithfully in their Zoroastrian traditions. Upon the Magi's arrival at Jerusalem, they caused a great stir in the city due to their regal caravan and reputation. This caused Herod to inquire of the scribes where the new king they were asking for was to be born, and they informed him in Bethlehem, as it says in Matthew 2, verses 2 through 9. The stars had led them to Jerusalem, and the scriptures were directing them to Bethlehem. As they embarked on their short journey south, they would have noticed the Coma Supernova, the general sign marking the time frame of Christ's birth in one of Virgo's decans. A decan, by the way, is one of the subordinate signs of the 12 major signs of the zodiac. Each of them has 3 decans, so there's a total of 48 signs in the zodiac. So Coma is one of the subordinate signs of Virgo. The ancient zodiacs pictured this constellation as a woman with a child in her arms. Abu Mashir, an Arabian astronomer of the 8th century, says there arises in the first decan, as the Persians, Chaldeans, and Egyptians teach, a young woman whose Persian name denotes a pure virgin sitting on a throne nourishing an infant boy. The boy has a Hebrew name called by some the desire of the nations, and in Greek it's Christos. So the child being nourished by the mother here is actually the Christ, which fits perfectly with the story of Virgo that we've already seen. This picture is not found, however, in any of the modern maps of the stars. There we find today a woman's wig. It appears that Bernice, the wife of Ptolemy III, king of Egypt during the Alexandrian time in the 3rd century BC, when her husband once went on a dangerous expedition, vowed to consecrate her fine head of hair to Venus if he returned safely. Her hair, which was hung up in the temple of Venus, was subsequently stolen, and to comfort Bernice, Conan, an astronomer of Alexandria, gave it out that Jupiter had taken it and made it a constellation. This is a good example of how the meaning of the other constellations have been perverted, ignorantly or intentionally. In this case, as in others, the transition from ancient to more modern languages helped to hide the meaning. The Hebrew name was Coma, which means desired, but the Greeks had a word for hair, come, C-O-M-E. This again is transferred to the Latin coma, and thus Coma Bernices, the hair of Bernice, comes down to us today as the name of this constellation and gives us the woman's wig instead of the blessed one, the desire of all nations. So that's a great example of the corrupting force of astrology and mythology and how they can hide the true biblical truths that are depicted in the heavens. The main sign that the Magi beheld was Jupiter in Virgo standing still on the meridian directly over Bethlehem. This standing still resulted from a change in Jupiter's retrograde motion, which we saw earlier, and that caused the triple union of Jupiter and Regulus in the previous year. This took place at the same time that the sun was standing still at the winter solstice in December of 2 BC. These events combined caused the Magi to rejoice with exceeding great joy, as it says in Matthew 2:10. As some of the first Gentiles to see and respond to the light of the new King, the Magi set a great example for us of integrity and faith. Arise, shine, for your light has come, Isaiah 60 verse 1, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you. See, darkness covers the earth, and thick darkness is over the peoples, but the Lord rises upon you, and his glory appears over you. Nations shall come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your dawn. The Magi did not find a babe, the Greek word being brephos, in a manger, like referred to in Luke 2:12 and 16, but a young child, a paidon, in a house, as it says in Matthew 2:8 through 11. There were no shepherds present because December was far too cold for the sheep to be in pasture. Once Herod heard his treachery with the Magi had failed, he had all the boys 2 and under murdered in Bethlehem and in the adjoining areas, based on the time that the Magi said they saw his star, Jupiter, in the rising. If Jesus was a newly born infant at this point, this would not have been necessary. If we follow the details of God's word, it will tell us all that we need to know to reveal the truth of any situation.